Professors and university employees of Reddit, what behind-the-scenes campus drama went on that students never knew about? Professors were purchasing tricked-out laptops with their budgets shortly before leaving the university. The university in turn would let the professors purchase the hardware for a song because it was used. We're talking 2,000-3,000 euro machines being purchased 6 months down the line for 500 euros. Someone finally caught onto the scheme, and now nobody can purchase the used hardware. I work for a prominent university in Japan. My Japanese colleagues tend to follow all rules very strictly and blindly follow manuals. One day an American professor had to rush to the US to see his dying mother. The staff members of class operations called him as he was grieving, asking him to still teach classes and review reports. Obviously, the lack of empathy and inflexibility lead the professor to take his bags and work for another school. Students never knew the true reason why he stopped teaching. I was kept from saying goodbye to my Korean children in an English Hague 1 year ago after I was fired for a serious kidney disease requiring hospitalization. I made signs saying goodbye and held them up across the street as they left the building. I didn't care. I was not letting 10-year-olds think I didn't like them anymore, and just walked out of there without saying anything about how much they meant to me. I also very quickly ran into the kindergarten to tell them I was going back to America, and I would never forget them. My boss was a bitch who wanted to drag me out of the local hospital while I was hooked up to N4. The doctor persuaded her it might permanently ruin my kidney. No regrets, those kids needed to know it was never about them. I liked them no matter what the crappy boss did. Night shift janitor made some really good moonshine. Some of the professors and grad students would leave cash in our top desk drawers when we left work, and the next day, a mason jar of handmade shine would be waiting there. He's since moved on from that department, but was good people. My teacher was Syrian. He was practically always at university, always tired, always acting off. Would sleep in his office, would forget to hand back assignments, would mix up basic things, cry randomly in the hallway. We later found out his family was being held hostage back home while he was teaching in Canada. I worked for the maintenance department one summer while in college, and got exposed to a lot of the drama in that department. Highlights include the school deciding that they didn't want to deal with the union anymore, so they started hiring for all non-teaching positions as temps, then firing them after 6 months and rehiring them 30 days later. This was done because temps didn't have to be union, and also because once a large enough percentage of employees were non-union, they could start hiring non-union employees on a permanent basis. The entire third shift cleaning crew, except the team lead, was made up of people with disciplinary issues. This included a man who's been caught multiple times stealing panties and setting up cameras in girls' showers. At least once, the girl in question was underage. None of this was ever told to the students. The head of facilities and planning knew this was an issue and just did checks on all the bathrooms in the building. This guy cleaned once or twice a month. I worked at a large university, and right before I started, the longtime dean of the school went on sabbatical. I didn't think anything of it until 2 months later when I found out that the university forced him to take time off because he blew almost all of the school's budget on fancy dinners with donors. We're talking like $1,000 plus on alcohol-heavy meals, showed up to official university events high off cocaine, and kept a second admin assistant as essentially his sex slave. He had a private bathroom with a shower installed in his office. He sent the school into a major budget crisis and was a PR disaster waiting to happen. It was a huge mess. The acting dean who stepped in got a lot of shit for how much damage control she had to do. Ultimately he returned a few years later just as a part-time faculty member. But still, totally wild. Research fellow at University of Exeter, UK, here, We recently had all our office bins removed as part of a new policy to try and improve recycling. Got lots of mass emails, replying with tons of sass and annoyance. One professor just replied, "What next? Do you expect us to drive to the local skip? TBH, it just really annoying not having a bin in our shared office. The worst part is now everyone brings in their own plastic bags to use as a temporary bin for the day, and then we end up having a ton of people trying to get them into one bin that is shared by the floor." Edit. Apologies folks. Completely forgot about our English term skip. It's basically a dumpster, but we also refer/call our local recycling centers skips too, only just now realizing that skip is such an odd phrase when you don't know what it means. Only 3 students knew about this. My roommate made drug stops, which was somewhat common knowledge. But we had something really weird happen. Our math professor hit us up a few times. I was with him at the time and he had a terrified look on his, like he was caught for sure. But then he said, "Can I get some of that?" He was then his best customer for the next 2 years. And we told no one, and no student to our knowledge found out. Edit. To those asking, my friend sold coke and meth, but I'm not sure what he sold to our professor. Probably both. One of our male English professors was being stalked by a female student, to the point he had to get a restraining order against her. The only reason my class knew was because she saw him in the hallway, entered our classroom and made a huge scene the first day of class, and security had to be called to make her leave. After that, the door was always locked for that class, and whoever was in the back row were scouters to let in late students. He also had to cancel class to go to court for the situation at least once. In the English department, one of the professors got arrested for domestic violence, divorced his wife, then got another English professor pregnant and eventually married her. And they all saw each other at department meetings. Super awkward. Edit. To clarify, the husband and original wife were both professors. He had an affair with another English professor. Wife found out and there was a major fight. Cops were called. He was arrested for DV, but I believe the charges were dropped. He filed for divorce, moved in with the other professor, got her pregnant, and he and the ex were still fighting over child support and alimony when I left. I was the pregnant professor's top, but I was definitely team original wife. 2 professors arrested for meth production, one for murdering his wife with lab supplies. Another stepped down quietly for embezzlement. And that's how we replaced half our chemistry department in a year. Grades came out. At that time they were printed. The burster, the device that cut the grade cards up into a mailable format, has a torn belt. We could not in any way get a replacement belt from the manufacturer, so we measured how long the belt needed to be. Then we went to an auto parts store and looked at a lot of belts before we settled on one and bought it. It fit the burster and we had all the grade cards mailed that night.